We're going to get started. So tonight is a question and answer, which is always my favorite topic in meditation because I get to show everybody my lav mic right here. Let's put that down a little bit further. Okay. Because we get into our like echo chambers. It's like the biggest problem with social media, I think, is we just keep like saying and hearing the same stuff over and over again, and hearing all the people that believe with our that agree with our delusions. And when I just talk about the same stuff over and over again, it starts to get boring, I think, for everybody else. So you guys come up with your questions, and I can kind of keep tabs on what you guys are going through and dealing with as well. I'm going to ask you guys, scoot back just a little bit over this way, and Tanya, scoot over this way just a little bit. Good. So I've got a couple of people who have already told me about their questions. I'll start with one from Leah. Go ahead, ma'am.
Well, this has been my experience based on my upbringing. It's implied rather than stated, but when we practice martial arts and we get better, we're not just doing it for ourselves. The way I see it is that when we get better, it just reflects well on the sifu or dojo. It's a very Chinese thing.
So let me catch everybody up who's watching right now and who can't hear you quick. So it's the idea that when we practice martial arts, we're not just practicing for ourselves, we are practicing in a way that also kind of reflects on sifu. And go ahead.
Well, just because in China, sifus are very selective in who they chose as students, so it better be good.
Yeah, in China, sifus are very selective. Here in America, we don't care who you are. You got 2 legs, great, you can practice martial arts.
So I just wanted to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, so first of all, I completely agree that you don't practice martial arts just for yourself. And I usually talk about it more in the vein of you're practicing for the other partners in the dojo, you're practicing for like the world as a whole. And this is because we directly and indirectly affect the world through our practice. When we make ourselves better people, that makes the world better because of the way that we interact with everybody, and because of just the added sum of having one better person helps the whole world in general. And I think that that's a great mindset to have. You're talking about something a little bit more specific and different about the way that your improvement or lack thereof reflects on me. And look, on some level, of course it does. If you guys suck, that means I suck. If you're not improving, I'm obviously not doing a great job of teaching you. And if you are going out into the world and being, anything other than your best self, that's not something that I want. And yet, I find myself wanting to cut you guys a little bit of slack because we are still human beings. And I'll just say this. When I was practicing on a very regular basis with Sifu Brown, I found myself having this thought on a very regular sense. This thought was always like, what would Sifu think if he saw me doing this right now? And it's helpful. It's really helpful to think, it's not quite like what would Jesus do, but it's also a little bit scarier because Jesus is dead, but Sifu's still here. I might do something to you if you do something you're not supposed to be doing. On that level, it's definitely very real. And on another level, it of course affects my experience of teaching martial arts, and the better you guys get, the better I get. I'm actually learning from you all the time, but I'm also learning from you when you don't get better. I'm learning from the mistakes that you guys make, and those are my mistakes. So that on that level, it's like you can't really, truly, completely mess up, because even when you mess up, you're still helping. You're helping me and you're helping the other students. Now, don't take that to mean like, well, I can just be bad and take my sweet time and maybe never get better, and that's totally fine. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if you're the kind of person who's looking for more pressure to put on yourself, don't use this as that excuse. This is not that. But if you do need a little bit more pressure, I'm watching, and you are always either adding to or subtracting from the sum greatness of the world, our dojo, and my impact, whatever that is. Other question, and if you guys have questions and you're listening at home, you can type them in the comments, or Kai, you can wave like crazy so that you catch my attention. Who's got one? Go ahead, man. I'll come to you next, man.
I just opened finally the book
after the Ecstasy, the Laundry. It's not after the laundry, the ecstasy. So this is one of the books that we have at the dojo. Go ahead.
So I opened it today, and right off the bat, it starts off, it's like really hard to read. It's like you should welcome everything into your life, from horrible things that happen to the good stuff, to joy, to the knowledge. Because it's all leading to something. It might be something better, you never know.
So let me catch these people up. So the beginning of After the Ecstasy, the Laundry talks about welcoming everything in, and it's like welcoming a guest into your home, where you might have a very unwanted guest who shows up, and you still welcome them with complete grace and the best possible attitude. Because even though this thing, and it might be a terrible event in your life, it might be an awful set of circumstances, whatever it is, this is still something that is there for us to learn and grow from. And even the act of just welcoming these things in is its own kind of enlightenment. So I'll let you finish your question, and then.
So I was thinking that it's pretty easy to look back over an entire life and see many examples where indeed that happened. Whatever arrived in your life, you got through it.
Yeah, hindsight is 20/20. It's a lot easier to look back and say, yeah, that terrible thing was good for me.
Exactly.
But right now,
And then now, something arrived, for every single new challenge, it's like all of that washed away, you're starting over again.
Mm-hmm.
And you think all of that was just pure dumb luck.
That's good. Wait, is that it?
Yeah.
Great. So, yeah, when you look back, you can see, because you have that perspective. Perspective is so priceless. And I used to, when I was young, I swear to you, I used to 100% just wish that I was a different person. I used to wish that, I was the cool kid in class. Literally, there was this kid named Chet in my class, and I was thinking, I suck and my life sucks. I wish I was Chet. And now I look back and think, well, that's ridiculous. And Chet, maybe he's doing great, maybe he's not. I don't know. But the things that you learn along the way, and all those terrible things that happen to you. Now that my life has been filled with terrible things, but some more terrible than others, it's all great, and it has all kind of served to make us the amazing person that we are now. That all being said, you can know that logically, but emotionally, your experience of the now, when you're getting tortured by whatever it is that's torturing you, you don't have that perspective usually in an emotional sense. That's what is most present to us. Is what are we really going through now, not from a logical standpoint, but how does it feel? And it is really useful and nice to take a beat, take a breath, take a step back, and remind ourselves that we have been through something like this before, maybe not this exact same thing, and maybe not something that is this bad, but we've been through something. And we have survived, and we have come out on the other end. And if you do that strongly enough or for enough time, that might bring you out of the emotional state that you're in and give you some kind of clarity or some kind of peace or ease in this moment. But I really like this advice of inviting in, and you don't actually have to have the perspective of the past in order to do that. That's just like an attitude shift. And you might be able to logically look at it and say, well, I know that I can do this because I've done it in the past, but you don't have to. You can just say, maybe this is something that I'm terrible at and I've never been great at, but I'm going to do it now. Right now, I'm going to welcome this in. And it's not just as simple as slapping a smile on your face, although that can help oftentimes. I think that it is, it's like sometimes it lives physically in your body like a smile, like you are embracing. You know, you open yourself up and you can accept. And we walk around, you know, some of you guys walk around like this all the time, or like this with your hands in your pockets, and allowing yourself to have this kind of open posture, I think is more useful. And that can start to then take your mind and your emotional state into the same kind of open, embracing, accepting place. But that might not be enough. You need to just do it. What's the problem, Tanya? Just be accepting and perfect. I don't know if I have like the right answer, but I think that you might just try to remind yourself of this idea more often throughout the day. This is one of the great things about reading. You know, the books that we have in the dojo and other stuff, and what we listen to and what we're taking in throughout the day is really going to have an effect on where we are when we enter into the next thing, the next situation. If you just listen to something that said, you're going to be accepting, you're going to welcome this guest into your home, welcome this thought in, or welcome this experience in, then you're much more likely to do it. So, kind of like anything else that we do, practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect. We practice exactly what we want to perform, and you want to just make the decision when you're in the right frame of mind, in the right state, that this is what you're going to do. And maybe there's a specific instance that you know that you have to deal with where you want to be more welcoming, or a specific person, or maybe there is just this general sense that you want to walk into your day. Kind of like the idea of setting an intention, like what we did in class in the dojo a couple weeks ago. So set that as your intention. Remind yourself as many times throughout the day as you can. And if it helps, do that logical process, the memory drill. I remember this thing or that thing that happened, and I'm still here. I still survived. But really, just on an emotional level, try to open yourself up on a physical level with your breathing. Just really breathe in, accept, and welcome in whatever this moment or this day has for you. I got one from Kaya. You're going to unmute yourself. Go ahead.
So my question kind of leapfrogs off that a bit. There's some days where I feel really great in work when doing class. Other days my energy level feels much lower. And sometimes I feel like, what's the point? I don't know if I'm going to get much better or get to where I want to. So how do I really just do each class as if it's its own class and it doesn't matter where I'm going to go with it, but just be with wherever I am, whether I can keep up or not?
That's great. This is a great place to be looking. So we love, as human beings, we love to tell stories and to have a progression and kind of like a direction that we're going in, and that is very useful. It is something that will very often propel us, to the next level and make us as great as we can be. And we should not be attached to it, and it is not always going to be there for us. And sometimes it will even work against us. So when you are in this story and what you see is, first I was bad at martial arts, then I got good, then I moved away and I got bad again, and now I'm back and I'm still kind of bad. Oh, I wish I was back there again where I was really good. This is going to mess with you. And I actually practice this. The time that I recognize that I'm doing it the most is when I play golf, which is like a couple times a year. And I do it way more often in meditation and martial arts, but it just has become the way that I do it. But for those of you who maybe it's not so natural and ingrained yet, you'll have the same kind of experience that I do with golf, where I, let's say that I'm on the first tee, and if you guys don't play golf, this is where you hit your first shot, and I just duff it, which happens most of the time I play, because my first swing I'm not warmed up, and I just kind of am not that great at golf. So I just duff it out into the woods, and then I get up to the ball, I find it, I kind of kick it back onto the fairway, and here I am. Now, if I'm in the energy or like the momentum of I'm already losing this, I'm doing terribly right now. There's no way I'm gonna, make par. There's no way I'm gonna get to where I want to be with this. Then, of course, the rest of that hole, and probably even the rest of that game, and maybe even the rest of that day, just is terrible. And the problem is that we are attached. We are attached to the first shot, or we are attached to the way that things used to be, and we see things kind of going down this way. And what we want to be able to do is set that aside completely and just be right here with this next shot, this next count in class, this next breath in meditation. And it's not the next one, it's this one right here, right now. And so what I have to practice when I'm golfing is I just forget about what my score is so far. I forget about whatever has just happened, and I just make this shot the best that I can. This has the effect of both making me a little bit better at golf, and my score at the end of the game is better, but also my experience is so much better. It is much more enjoyable when I'm not stuck on all the times that I messed up, and it is truly a Zen experience. This is not the way that most people play golf. This is not the way that most people do martial arts or anything in life. To be able to set aside what has just happened, or to be able to set aside the story or the momentum and be here like this is the first shot, or like this is exactly as you said, this is its own class. And I think that it's actually very helpful sometimes to think of it like this is going to be the last class. What if this is the last class that I ever take? And you're moving away someday, or you die someday, or whatever. Something's going to cause there to be a last class. But you don't need to wait until you get to that point to put yourself in that situation where you think, okay, I'm going to give everything that I can and get the most out of this and pour myself into it like this is actually my last class. This is the last punch I ever throw. This is the last kick I ever give. This is the last time I ever see the other students or Sifu. What kind of taste am I going to leave in their mouths and in mine? And Sifu Brown messed with everybody one day. He used to have fish, a couple of koi fish in a small pond in the dojo back in Michigan, and they spawned one day, or whichever ones of them spawned, and it was like the most horrendous smell, like a chemical spill, and nobody could practice in the dojo. It was terrible. So he closed up the dojo for them to clean it up and all that. And he put a sign on the front door. Didn't call anybody, didn't say classes canceled for the night. They didn't have email lists and all that fancy stuff. This was old school. They only had telephones. And he just put a sign on the door that said, "Dojo is closed. Did you get everything that you could get out of your practice?" And some people showed up and they were like, "Oh my God, the dojo's closed. My life is ruined. And also, I don't think I did get everything that I could have gotten out of it." And I didn't actually show up that day because I think I was on staff, so he called me and told me not to show up. But this is really useful in meditation. When I sit and I meditate, sometimes I need to tell myself, what if you die after this meditation? What if this is your last shot? Like, are you going to hit enlightenment now? Or are you going to get to where you can get with this and be happy with it? Be satisfied with it. Really know that you have done what you came to do. So, Buddhist monks like to meditate in the graveyard. Tibetan monks like to do this. And that really connects them to the idea of death and like the limitations on us all. I don't know if you need to get that morbid with it, and if you really want to spend all day thinking about death, but it can actually be helpful to some degree. So try that out. Just the next time you go to class, just say to yourself, what if this is it? What if this is the last class that I ever do? And if that is too morbid for you, then you could think of it like this is the first class, and I don't know what to expect. I'm just going to go into it and just play with it and enjoy. Other question? Yes, ma'am.
Well, this is a big question, but I'm sure you can get the answer to it all very succinctly. But I had this insight last night. I can't remember. I wanted to know your thoughts on timelessness versus impermanence.
Timelessness versus impermanence.
Because I think this is almost related because we're taught to believe that impermanence, what is here and now, is gone tomorrow. But my insight was, it's timeless. What was here now has always been here before and will always be, whether it's good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
So
let me catch people up first. Remember what you're about to say. So Leah's asking about the idea of timelessness versus impermanence. And impermanence is I would say a word that I use more often and probably connects us more closely to the concept that not necessarily that we always want to have, but one that is very useful. So impermanence is like this. You know, what if this is my last class? This body is not going to last forever. And even tomorrow, it's not going to be the same that it is now. And timelessness is kind of more, it's more of like a philosophical perspective or idea where it's like whatever happens or whatever exists now has always existed and will always exist. And you could think of this, like I personally think of this in terms of like, you know, the universe cycling through, expands and then contracts and then does a big bang and maybe the whole thing happens again. That's kind of a fun idea. But you might just think of it even in the cycles that we go through in our own lives on an individual basis, maybe a karmic cycle, and maybe it's a physical thing, or maybe it is an experience or a thing that you're attached to. So.
Well, yeah, I can add on that because impermanence, everyone has that linear thinking beginning and end.
Mm-hmm.
There is no end, and so timelessness is really the concept of Tai Chi, that everything moves in circles.
Yeah, everything moving in circle and time moving the same way, like that movie. Did you guys watch that movie, Arrival? It's so good. Arrival is like a truly spectacular movie. No spoilers, but it involves the idea of like, I can't say anything about it. Well, if you've seen the movie, you know that it's great and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Go ahead.
I think that's about it, though.
Great, I'll take it from here. So, there's a great. This is not directly related to your question, but it's related enough. to the idea of kind of impermanence. There's a great Zen story in Zen Flesh, Zen Bones, where a young monk is carrying or doing something, moving around, and I think it's his master's favorite, let's just call it his favorite teacup. He's carrying his master's favorite teacup, and he trips and drops it, and the teacup shatters. And this is a very smart young monk, so he sweeps up the pieces and he puts it like in his pocket, and he goes to the master and he says, "Master, can you talk about death and impermanence?" And the master says, "Yes, all things have their own time, and nothing is here forever, and so everything has its time to die, and we should get used to it and be okay with that." And so the young monk takes the just dust of the teacup and says, "It was your teacup's time to die." We should actually view all things, bless you, Kaya, you better be alone right now. We should view all things in this way, in a very real sense. They are already kind of dead. This is like almost the opposite of what you're talking about, but also the same. We are all dead, and everything that you see in the universe is basically, it's already doesn't exist because all things are impermanent and headed in that way. And this is a central part of our practice and philosophy, is to be rooted in that which is changeless. And what is changeless is change itself. Things will always be in flux. You can always count on things changing, and that's about it. You might find that some things stick around for a little bit longer than others, and you can count a little bit more on those things. But at the end of the day, if you're putting too much stock or you are relying on or attaching to something too much, you're eventually going to get disappointed by it. And on another level, or another way of looking at things or thinking of things is like, things are as they are now. The way that you think of time, the way that you experience time, the way that you talk about it. For those of you guys that saw the movie Arrival, you know what I'm talking about. The concept of time, or the way that you experience things, can be more timeless. And this is also a very big, deep part of our practice. Living in the moment is the ability to kind of stretch this moment so that it can seem to last forever. And this is like the whole universe in a cup of tea. Somebody said that, I don't know who. But your whole lifetime in this breath. And if you are really getting to where we want to get to with our practice, with meditation, with Tai Chi, then you'll have more and more of these experiences. And I had an experience like this on Kung Fu retreat once when we were doing Tai Chi, and we were practicing in Michigan on the basketball court outside, and there was just a beautiful white feather from a seagull sitting on the ground. And I noticed it in a way that I had never noticed looking at a feather before. And it stuck, it seared in my mind, and in that moment it was like it seemed to last for a very long time. And I will remember that seagull's feather when I'm dying. I'm going to think back on all the weird stuff in life, and I'm going to remember that feather. I think that when we are able to truly be present, that changes in a fundamental way the way that we experience time, and it really makes it seem like it lasts longer. And this is something that you've all experienced in your own life, whether you're practicing in this way or not. If you remember what it was like to be a child, and you remember summer lasted forever. Summer was an eternity, and now summer is, you don't even get a summer anymore. So you just keep working. But the things that happened when you were young in that summer were all new, and you experienced them for the first time in a way that like everything was exciting, and you had this awe in the way that you walked into everything. And the problem is now we have experienced so much, and some of you guys who are older, you're laughing at me saying that, and some of you who are younger are like, what do you mean? But we've experienced more than we did when we were younger, and it has this, deleterious effect on our ability to be in the moment and to experience that same kind of awe if we let it. If we allow ourselves to see this front punch and say, I already know how to do a front punch, then you can't learn from it, and you can't really fully experience it in this moment. And this is like what Bruce Lee said. Before martial arts, a punch was just a punch and a kick was just a kick. Then when I was practicing martial arts, a punch was much more and a kick was much more than a kick. And then after mastery of martial arts, or after practicing for a long time, then a punch was just a punch again and a kick was just a kick. And what I'm talking about is more like that kind of middle stage where you want to be in the midst of it and really, be living in life right now. This is it. This moment right here could be the last moment. You could walk out of class and get hit by a car. Don't do that. But this moment right here, what is it like that we're always in such a hurry to get to? Like that other thing is going to be more important than this moment. This moment is it. This is the best moment and the most complete thing to experience that we will ever get. So when you're meditating and your mind is wandering to something else and you're like, what am I going to eat when I get home, or whatever else it is, just let that go and recognize that this breath that you're taking in right now is the entirety of your life. And this is the most important and amazing thing that you can possibly experience, is this breath. So in that way, we can get, I think, as close to immortality as we want, at least. Sifu Brown would say, what good is immortality, or what use is immortality to us when we can't even use the life that we've already got? Well, the life that we've got is plenty, and it really is an opportunity to recognize the fleeting nature, the impermanence, the fact that we could be gone like this, and that anything in our life and anybody in our life could be gone like this, and to use that to truly appreciate in a way that changes us deeply what we've got and what is happening here in this moment. And so this is what meditation is about. It is the study of both impermanence and timelessness, this moment, and also the vast expanse of everything. So that's all. We're going to sit and do all of that right now in meditation. Sit comfortably.